One book, a lie, in a world that changed forever. Imagine living in a world where a single book could turn your neighbor, your friend, and even your own family against you. A book so powerful that it fueled hysteria, justified torture, and led to the deaths of tens of thousands of people. Welcome back to Echoes of Deception. In episode 1, we discussed Heinrich Kramer and the structure of his infamous work, The Hammer of Witches. Today, we're going to dig deeper into two things. First, the moral or ethical implications from part 3 of his book, the part where Kramer lays out his blueprint for prosecuting and exterminating witches. Trust me, the practices are morbid because in the 15th century, judicial practices were harsh. Torture was rampant, and entire families were annihilated in the process of carrying out justice. The second thing, the forever blow struck by this book, the hammer, if you will, against personal freedom and judicial practice, a blow that now echoes into the present, affecting the stuff we're all living with every day, right now, this minute. Everywhere in the world, there's a headline being written, a story about to be told that is amplified by social media, a story that could well have played to medieval audiences, even in places like Speyer, Germany. So let's dive in. Here are two questions that emerge from Kramer's blueprint. First, is it lawful to use torture to extract confessions? What do you think? Second, should mercy be granted to someone accused of witchcraft with hearsay evidence or from a confession made under torture? I'll speak to each question and provide a specific example, one event that happened between the 15th and the 17th century, and then reveal a specific 21st century echo of that event. So if you're tempted to bow out now because you think this stuff is ancient, because witches are not relevant in our time, or that you feel your time is being wasted, please reconsider, because moral failures in the administration of justice to ordinary people, not just witches, have not gone away. And here's the rub. It's easy to argue that today people are as willing to believe a story based on misinformation or outright lies as they are to believe in stories based on truth. Now, do you think at this point, this is episode 2, you've got a handle on where this is going? Is it going to be about witchcraft or lies told by people that other people believe, or people that abuse power or politics or religion, or people like Donald Trump or anything else? If you think any of those things, you're going to be wrong. Because as an author and writer, I know that generally the first chapter and the last chapter are the most important. And I guarantee you, in the end, this series will surprise. It will surprise you with where it is going and what the final message and episode is. So I'm going to leave you with that as a teaser, right? And there's one thing that you can do that I would appreciate. Hit the like button. That helps a lot. It's simple to do. If you really want to help, consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. It's free. I'm not sponsored. There are no ads on these episodes. You can just sit back and enjoy the story. And if you do that, it really helps me a lot. Now, did you also know that geezers, people over the age of 65, their viewership on YouTube doubled in the past 2 years? I didn't. Did you also know that the age group from 54 to 65, that group increased over 62% in that same time period? Or that according to Nielsen, YouTube now commands just about 12% of the total viewing audience in the United States, not to mention the worldwide audience. Because you see, these stories can be seen or heard by anyone across the world. So I'm going to leave you with that and a thank you if you've hit that like button and subscribed. And as one viewer pointed out, he said, and I'm going to look and quote, he said, "Okay, Echoes of Deception is fantastic, thank you." And he really enjoyed the storytelling. But he said, "I must admit, my initial reaction when you began talking about that single book that changed the course of history for 200 years, he said, I think you might have been talking about the Bible. That just shows where my head's at." That's what he said. And he would be wrong, because that's not where this series is going. Okay, back to the first question. Is it lawful to use torture to extract confessions? Now let's look at a 17th century example, which was nearly 2 centuries after Kramer first published The Hammer of Witches. The city, Würzburg, Germany, between 1626 and 1631. Now, this was one of the deadliest witch persecutions in history. The Würzburg Trials were particularly horrific because they involved indiscriminate targeting and torture of people, including children and nobility, children as young as 7 years old. So what happened? Well, witchcraft accusations were spread through hysteria and political motivations. They were driven by prince bishops who used them to eliminate enemies, city leaders, prominent citizens, and entire families. Now, a prince bishop played an important and pivotal role in the whole evolution of the concept of separating church and state. Because during the Würzburg period, a prince bishop had dual authority as both a spiritual leader and a secular ruler. So this allowed him to wield both church and state resources in the persecution of alleged witches. His torture methods included things like finger crushing, hanging people by their arms behind their back, burning flesh with hot pincers, and, of course, burning at the stake. Now, the confessions led to a cascade of executions because the tortured victims were compelled, and this is important, they were compelled to implicate others. And of course, they did so under torture. Now, the outcomes. The entire towns were emptied of their populations because of the mass killings. Thousands of people were burned alive at the stake. Trials finally ended when legal scholars and the Holy Roman Emperor began questioning the legitimacy of the proceedings. So Malleus Maleficarum, that book by Kramer, provided a framework for all of it. And part 3 of the book legitimized the use of such extreme measures to extract false confessions. Now, the influence of Kramer's blueprint is evident not only in Würzburg, but it spilled over into the Spanish Inquisition, and that began around 1478 and lasted through 1834. But the use of torture was most prevalent in that Inquisition between the 15th and the 16th centuries. Is that a coincidence? What do you think? And now, let's hop, skip, and jump westward across the Atlantic. And yes, I'm talking about mass hysteria and executions based on lies that occurred in Massachusetts in the year 1692. Known now historically as the Salem witch trials, they're the most famous in American history, and they're characterized by the usual suspects: mass hysteria, wrongful executions, and the absence of something we now take for granted, the due process of law. So what happened in Salem? Well, it began when young girls claimed to be possessed and accused by others of bewitching them. The accusations quickly spiraled out of control, and they targeted neighbors, social outcasts, and even respected townspeople. The accused had one thing in common: they were all denied fair trials, and they were subject to torture to extract confessions. In all, 19 people were hanged, and one of them, a guy by the name of Giles Corey, was crushed to death. The outcome? Well, 20 people were executed and hundreds were imprisoned. The Massachusetts government later admitted the trials were a mistake, and reparations were paid to victims and families. The Salem trials became a symbol of the dangers of mass hysteria and injustice. So now, let's leap into the 21st century and ask the same pivotal questions. Is torture justified? Well, following the September 11th attacks, the CIA implemented a program of enhanced interrogation techniques, and the detainees were all suspected of terrorism. The methods included waterboarding, sleep deprivation, and stress positions. Now, the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee, almost 15 years later, a report was issued that revealed that these techniques were among the most brutal and they were less effective than previously claimed by the government, often leading to false information and a clear violation of international law. Remember, at the time, the U.S. was the world's most powerful nation, the global democratic example, founded on civil liberty and equal justice under the law for everyone until 2024. Now, John McCain, a victim of wartime torture, said that the torture question isn't about our enemies. It's about us. It's about who we are and who we aspire to be. The use of torture compromises, he said, that which most distinguishes us from our enemies. Our belief that all people, even captured enemies, possess basic human rights, which are protected by international conventions. And so McCain further argued that torture was not only morally wrong, but also ineffective, stating at one point, "I know from personal experience that abuse of prisoners will produce more bad than good intelligence, and I know that victims of torture will offer intentionally misleading information if they think their captors want to hear it. His condemnation of torture was one of the most powerful and credible rebukes of the CIA's practices, given his own experience as a torture survivor during the Vietnam War. Nonetheless, the CIA tortured. Now, let's take a deeper dive into the second question. Should mercy be granted? What if the accused denies guilt despite strong evidence or a confession under torture? Well, back in the 17th century, and there was a famous torture case of a Catholic priest, Urbain Grandier. He was accused of witchcraft in 1632 after a group of nuns claimed he had bewitched them, leading to their demonic possession. Despite being subjected to severe torture, including the application of red-hot iron vices to his legs, Grandier steadfastly denied all charges of sorcery. Nonetheless, he was found guilty and burned at the stake in 1634. Okay, now let's echo forward. The 21st century. In March of 2025, under President Trump, Gilmar Garcia, a Maryland resident, was deported to El Salvador despite a court order prohibiting his removal. The deportation was later acknowledged by the U.S. government as an administrative error. He was sent to El Salvador's CECOT Prison. It's the largest prison in the Americas, with a reported total capacity up to 40,000 inmates, the worst of the worst. Inmates are confined for at least 23.5 hours a day, with metal bunks without mattresses or pillows, open toilets, and limited washing facilities. The prisons prohibit visitation, recreation, and any kind of mental or educational programs. Prisoners have a very limited contact with the outside world, and they appear before courts only via online hearings, often in large groups. CECOT has become a key facility in U.S. immigration enforcement, notably under the Trump administration, which deported hundreds of alleged gang members, including Venezuelan gang members, to this prison under a $6 million agreement with El Salvador. A U.S. judge described the deportation as wholly lawless and ordered Garcia's return to the U.S., citing violations of due process and the risk of irreparable harm. Or then, how about the case of Nathan Woods? He was executed in Alabama in 2020 for his alleged role in the killing of 3 police officers, despite not being the shooter. His co-defendant, who admitted to being the sole shooter, stated that Woods was not involved in the killings. Woods maintained his innocence, and his case drew national attention, with advocates arguing that he should not be executed based on questionable evidence and his lack of direct involvement. The state of Alabama, despite all the controversy around his conviction, killed him anyway. Alabama allows the death penalty without unanimous jury verdict, and in Nathan's case, it was a 10-12 decision on the part of the jury. So, I ask again, should a country founded on the rule of law not raise concerns about the fairness and the reliability of the death penalty verdicts rendered without full jury consensus? What do you think? Despite these concerns, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to intervene, and Governor Kay Ivey denied clemency. Nathan was black. Hey, this concludes episode 2. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for taking the time to watch a geezer. I really do hope the story resonated and that you enjoyed the echoes from the past to the present. And as I created the story, I realized that people don't always have a choice in life, the hand they're dealt. And witches and their living reality in medieval times were fueled by fears and anxieties about life events, things like plagues, crop failures, child mortality, economic hardship, and social unrest, especially social unrest. During the times of war or changing power dynamics, fear of conspiracies and secret plots fueled the witch hunts as a means of controlling dissent among the people. Can't you see it now? Signs in protests saying, blame it on the witches. Blame it on the witches among us. And clearly, it seems to me that we always have a choice on what to believe. And our job is to make the right choice. In the next episode, we're going to focus on something else that emerged. During Kramer's time, 75 to 85% of all those prosecuted were women. Why? Why did Kramer focus on women when he wrote The Hammer of Witches? Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in episode 3. Every day is special, and it's your turn to make some hope and share it with somebody else. Thanks a bunch.